hi there, and welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. This is where we take a fresh look at ourselves and the world around us. We learn a little bit, we grow a little bit, get a little bit closer to God with this brief hour we get to spend with one another, and we're so glad you joined us. I'm Debbie Georgiani, I couldn't even say my last name, along with Jerry Usher, and you are the key person, because in a moment we're going to give you the phone number. We'd like you to call in and weigh in on the topic that Jerry Usher is going to introduce, because Jerry, I have to say, you wrote up a beautiful synopsis on take2show.com. And if you would you read it for all of us? Because not everybody in the Take Two family gets the synopsis. So it'll be nice if they could hear exactly what this show is about today.
Well, we're talking about Unspoken Witness for the faith. Have you been inspired, edified, motivated to deepen your own faith life or prayer life by seeing other people, not so much in words sharing their faith, but just by their actions, by maybe praying in public or being out, having a pro-life presence at an abortion clinic, helping the poor and the homeless. Maybe you see them going in and out of the Adoration Chapel on a regular basis, and you think, it just kind of clicks for a second, and you go, wow, that person they're really giving a great example of how to live the faith. So yeah, what I wrote was, it's often noted that people will be more open to the gospel based on what we do rather than on what we say. We're called to be open about our faith without being showy or looking for attention. And we're not to shy away from praying in public, such as before a meal at a restaurant, helping the poor, standing up for life by praying outside an abortion clinic, and lots more. It can be so uplifting and reassuring when we see others living their faith in a quiet yet visible way. Has that ever happened to you? Have you been going on about your daily life only to see someone make an unspoken witness to Jesus Christ? And that's what we want to talk about today at 833-288-3986. How was that, Deb? Did that get it across?
Excellent. Yeah, it was great. It was great. I can't wait to hear what our listeners, our Take Two family, have to say about this topic. So Ryan is ready to answer your call. Please dial in at 833-288-3986. And if I may, Jerry, just a few things that I just wanted to make our Take Two family aware of, if I may. Okay, first, I wanted to share that I'm looking forward already to tomorrow's show. It was suggested by our ministry leader, Gigi, who asked, she wanted to know why people listen, especially people that aren't Catholic, why they listen to EWTN and to Take Two. So we're going to be asking that question tomorrow. If you're a non-Catholic, why do you listen? We really want to know. We're very interested. Also, too, we've received some comments and some phone calls from new Take Two family members. And David, thank you so much for the kind words that you shared about Take Two. Welcome to the family. You said you're so excited to be part of the Take Two family. Well, we're excited you are a part of this wonderful family. We journey together. We're trying to get closer to God together. And see, the exciting thing, David, is that hopefully, if God willing, we all make it to heaven. We'll all be in that heavenly sandbox having fun together. It'll be great. That heavenly playground. It'll be wonderful. And Robert, we had a wonderful conversation with you as well. And thank you for just the wonderful testimony you imparted to us. Your life story, very impactful. And hopefully we'll be hearing from you again, Robert. So welcome to the family. But also we have a very urgent prayer request, Jerry. And this actually came in from one of Marty's clients. Marty is in real estate. And one of his clients, Deanne, knew that we had a radio show and knew that our Take Two family are prayer warriors. And she literally said, Marty, please, can you get this to Jerry and Debbie? And I have the handwritten note right in front of me. And it says, Deanne's brother, Howard, is in need of prayers. He just had a recent heart attack with complications. And she is just counting on the Take Two family. So folks, please, when you say your rosary today, when you go to adoration, when you just talk to God, please remember Deanne's brother, Howard. We need help, heavenly help for Howard so that he can get over this and get well. Okay, I think I covered. Wait, Jerry, one more thing. Gigi, who works with us in ministry, Inspired by Faith Book Club. we just are going to be announcing today, I think she's announcing it right now, that for Lent, Jerry, we're doing Give Up Worry for Lent, Gary Zimak's book, 40 Days to Finding Peace in Christ. And that'll be our Lenten journey together. So if you're interested, folks, go to Inspired by Faith Book Club on Facebook. Okay, now I've got everything checked off on my to-do list.
Good, good. Well, phones are starting to ring here. Ryan is screening calls right now, but a couple of phone lines still remain available for you as we talk about any time in your life when you have been inspired, edified, maybe challenged to live your faith more devoutly by the silent witness, the unspoken witness of people that maybe you've seen, like I said, maybe a large family. They gather in a restaurant, and before they pray, they all bow their heads, and you just look over there and you say, wow, what a beautiful witness that is. Debbie, for so many of us, it wasn't the case for me personally, but I know for many, many people, it would be, say, a parent, for example. As you're growing up, you get up, in the middle of the night or early in the morning, and you look and you see, your father or your mother or both of them on their knees in a little room in the house, praying. Maybe it was the witness of a parent or a teacher, or a loved one who they didn't have to speak anything, but it was just by the way they lived their lives. How has that inspired you? 833-288-3986.
I have to say something about this because you just made me think of this as you were talking about, just recalling people in your life that it just really spoke to you, how they were, connected with God. It reminds me of being a little kid in New Jersey growing up, and we would get some just fierce storms, and they would just come out of nowhere. And my mother was so calm. She had this little statue of the Blessed Mother on the windowsill of the kitchen, and she'd be doing dishes, and the Blessed Mother would be facing, towards the inside of the house. And the storm would happen, and I remember my mother just turning the statue, the little baby statue, she'd just turn it outward, towards the outside. And then she'd go, "Don't worry, it'll all be okay." And I thought to myself, wow, she has great confidence in that little statue. I mean, as a little kid, I'm thinking, what is in that, that little figurine? But then, of course, it's the Blessed Mother. Very interesting when you remember things like that.
We have a very recent example of kind of a silent witness, and that is putting up or taking down the decorations in your parish. The church will always ask, we need people to help out. And maybe you've seen people jump up and be at the ready and volunteer right away and just jump in just because they want to be helping out. So a lot of ways that we can talk about this unspoken witness. Your phone number is 833-288-3986.
EWTN, communicating the faith.
What makes me happy is listening to Catholic radio. I'm by myself a lot. Had a concussion as a child and I can't see very well, but I do work. I go to church and I'm an on-fire convert. And as a child, more or less, I've learned to have a good sense of humor whenever I can. And I'm very appreciative of everything I have, and especially Catholic radio.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
It's time for Family Man with Dr. Gregory Popchak.
Want to be more successful? Be humble. A study at Duke University found that successful people tend to exhibit more humility than less successful people in the same field. Being humble doesn't mean beating up on yourself or denying real gifts or talents. That's self-deprecation, which is neither a strength nor a virtue. Exercising true humility, in both the theological and psychological sense, means being willing to see that you don't have all the answers and you can learn a lot from listening to the people around you. Researchers found that humble people did a better job of adapting to new circumstances and soliciting support from others, both of which contributed to the increased success of more humble participants in the study. Jesus said that the meek will inherit the earth. Well, science and the Bible agree. Let humility be the secret of your success. I'm Dr. Greg Popchak, but you can call me Family Man.
To discover more ways faith can enrich your life, visit CatholicCounselors.com.
Well, speaking of prayer, the Holy Rosary is on EWTN daily at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time and 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. on EWTN Radio. It's amazing to pray the Holy Rosary together. You'll probably catch me praying it at the 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I usually pick up that one. I just love it. I love praying. I love knowing that there's just thousands and thousands praying at the same time, Jerry. Doesn't that give you just a really good feeling that prayers are being heard in heaven?
It's really something we have to actually stop and intentionally wrap our minds around, because sometimes we can say, oh, yeah, the rosary's on the radio, but then we think, wow, that's global radio. You're talking about, like you said, thousands, maybe tens, hundreds of thousands, who knows? So definitely pray the Holy Rosary with EWTN. And, Debbie, right before we paused there, I mentioned that one example of people taking down the Christmas decorations. And I actually experienced that was it one day this week? I think it was, I can't remember what day it was, but I went to Mass in the morning, and then I went back later on to do a holy hour, and there were 3 or 4 people just very quietly climbing the ladders, taking the greens down and the decorations and putting stuff away. And, the whole parish enjoys, loves, just glories in the beauty of the decorations and all of that. And yet, how do they get put up and how do they get taken down? So it's those faithful, beautiful, silent witnesses that do things like that. And I'm thinking about Knights of Columbus and women's groups in parishes who do so many things behind the scenes. So, folks, there's a lot of ways that we can go with this program. What silent or unspoken witness has inspired you? 833-288-3986.
I have to tell you, it was interesting that you're saying that. My pastor used to always make it a point for all of us as parishioners to thank the art and environment volunteers who come late at night, early in the morning to set up all the decorations and all of the aesthetics for what's happening in the sanctuary and outdoors. He used to always say, "Please thank them. They are really doing just a beautiful work for all of us." It's absolutely so. I'm glad you said that, Jerry. I agree. That's a tough job. Some people say, "Well, I want to volunteer at the church," but that's not the committee I want to volunteer.
All right, well, let's see what you have to say. We got a lot of folks already in the queue. Couple of lines open here, so be sure that you get in now, because we just absolutely hate to get to the end of the show and you've got an amazing take on this topic and we just don't have time to get to you. So grab that open phone line there, 833-288-3986. Janine got in first in Pensacola, Florida, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Janine, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Sure. So what's your example of this?
Well, we were recently on a cruise over the holidays. We took a short cruise, and we always do the sign of the cross, and we pray before we eat. But we were going for breakfast, and we were on the elevator, and my 11-year-old son, he sort of jumped out in front of some people. And so when we got to where we were going to sit down and have breakfast, I just wanted to take that opportunity to teach him that he was rude, that he jumped out in front of some people, and that he really needed to use manners. And so the 6-year-old then says, "Well, why? Why do you want him to use his manners, and why was that wrong?" So I went into explaining that, we were Christians and that we are examples to others, but even more than that, God is watching us all the time, and that, He wants us to be kind and compassionate. And I went through several things, and a lady was sitting across, and evidently she was listening to the conversation, and she said, I couldn't help but eavesdrop on your conversation, and I just want you to know that is so rare to hear, but so good to hear. So, people are always watching and always listening.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you made an impression on that fine lady, and I think that just makes you I think when you hear that from parents, especially to their children, it just makes you believe in the wholesomeness of what it means for parents to impart these good principles to their children, and it really Janine, it just feels good. I know I was in that lady's position. I've overheard parents talking to their young children. My kids are all grown. I'm a grandparent now, but I'll tell you what. When I hear that, I'm like, wow, there is some really fabulous parents that are taking the time to impart this wisdom to their children at an early age to so that they can be the best version of themselves and be the best Christian out there. I think it's great. Way to go, Janine. And I'll tell you what, I think it's important that we encourage other parents to be bold like that and to be Christian on the outside and not worry about if people are listening, because it's a good thing, right, Janine?
Yeah, absolutely is. And I have to say, we fail in so many different ways. But in that way, at that particular time, we really did something good. And I think that, the boys, when they saw that lady was listening, it really impacted on them that people are always looking and listening.
Wow. Yeah, and I think, Janine, obviously, you there's no way that you did this for the purpose of this woman seeing it and hearing it. But I think it's unfortunate that in today's world, it stands out so much because there are a lot of kids running rampant and not being disciplined or corrected. Parents do their very, very best, but, not every parent does. Like you said, you make mistakes. And I think we see a lot of young families today where the kids kind of, get away with whatever they want. So it was beautiful. I wish I could have seen this experience and been there when that happened, Janine, because I'm sure it really was a true inspiration for that woman. Thank you so much for calling.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bless you.
Great first call. Okay, so there's an open phone line for you if you'd like to call in and talk about these times that you either displayed your Christianity in a very quiet way. You were just being Christian, and somebody else noticed, or you noticed someone else really stepping up and being Christ in the world, and they did it so easily, so effortlessly. It was just part of their being. 833-288-3986. That's the number to call. Please don't sit this out. Please call in. We want to hear from you. And Jerry, I know we're receiving quite a bit of email. Can you share anything before we get to Mary Beth?
Yeah, at Take2 at EWTN.com, our friend and regular listener, Zach, said, "Dear Debbie and Jerry, my friend and married couple Al and Sandy inspire me by their example. Each week they bring communion to me and another woman in my high-rise, except when the priest brings it. They do it joyfully." So there you go, Debbie. And how many people are helping our priests in so many important ways by going, places where priests don't have always have the time to go, like extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion and so forth. So
that's true.
It's a great example that Zach gives us,
and that's a great ministry to bring Jesus to those that are homebound. Very important ministry. Okay, let's hear what Mary Beth in Evansville, Indiana, on Facebook. Hi, Mary Beth. We're waving to you. Has to say hi, Mary Beth. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to share a beautiful witness that my mother, Carol Miller, did. I grew up with her making VHS copies of all kinds of programming that EWTN would put on TV. Every day my mom would tape, and then she would meticulously label it in her beautiful handwriting. She had so many tapes, well over 100 tapes, and she put them all in a banker's box one day. And I went with her, and we went to church, and she proudly handed them over to the pastor, who I think the look on his face, I think he wasn't quite sure what to do with all those tapes. But I would sit and watch Mother Angelica and all the great programming that EWTN has, and it really lit a fire in me. I mostly listened to EWTN on the radio, as it turns out. But even in the wee hours of the morning, I like to turn the TV on and watch a lot of the programming. I'd rather not have my left arm than not have EWTN.
Wow.
It has made such a profound difference in my life.
Wow. Well, Mary Beth, we know that you're a regular listener and a real solid member of the Take Two family, so we thank you for that. And as you're laying all this out, the EWTN media missionary comes to my mind. Maybe your mother Carol wasn't officially a media. Maybe she was a missionary. I don't know, but I mean, maybe even without being one officially or formally, boy, was she doing missionary evangelization work with the programming from EWTN? And I'm chuckling a little bit as you refer back to the VHS days that we all have lived through. But what a great witness. Did you ever get involved in maybe helping her tape shows and take him to church and things?
No, I didn't, but I should have, because truly they were all gathered into that one banker's box. And you know how big a banker's box is. It was really heavy. It took about both of us to carry them in. And I really don't know. We often wonder, oh, no, I wonder what Monsignor ever did do with that box of all those tapes. And some people still have their VHS players. You know, it's not impossible to watch those. But another thing my mom did was she put her money, put your money where your heart is. She would religiously write checks to EWTN and do what Mother Angelica said, put it between your, gas and electric bill.
Right, yeah.
And that made a big impression on me. But EWTN is what our broken world needs. It truly is.
Wow. Mary Beth, that was just beautiful, beautiful words by you. And you mentioned your mom, Carol, and I think about her, taping all those episodes and doing all that because she cares about other souls. She cares about people getting to heaven. And that's what we should all feel, that sense of urgency and that desire and that motivation to do that. And I think that it's important for us to hear these stories, because I think some of us, we get in the groove of life and we get on autopilot and we're not thinking really too much about other souls. But your mom certainly, she has that spirit and that heart. Anything else you'd like to share about that?
No, just that it created many good memories of sitting in her beautiful living room on the couch next to her. And my mom is still alive. She's 82, but she's recovering from a stroke that she had when she was at her beach house. And so any prayers for Carol Miller recovering from a stroke, I would so very much appreciate that. Thank you.
You got it, Mary Beth. Thank you so much. We love you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And tell your mom, Carol, thank you so very much for supporting other souls through the programming on EWTN, because that's what she did, and she continues to do. So the least we can do, but it's very powerful, is we can storm heaven for your mom for a full recovery, and that we will do. So be assured of that.
Yes, absolutely. We will offer those prayers. And by the way, we just heard from one of our dear family members, Donna, on the Jerry and Debbie Facebook page. And Donna is saying, is there a way to watch/comment live on Facebook? And Donna, the answer to that is yes, but you're probably on our Jerry and Debbie Facebook page now, but just look for EWTN Catholic Radio under the Facebook pages, and you will find a way to view what we're doing right now and to post your comment there. So we hope that we'll see you over there.
Okay, moving to Amy. And Amy is in Ann Arbor, Michigan on Ave Maria Radio and is a first-time caller. You get our virtual bell, Amy. Welcome to Take Two.
Thank you so much. I wanted to share the example of my father, who was a very man's man. He was a construction worker, but carried himself very, very, respectfully. And every time we went to Mass, I would try to, talk to him, and he would teach me to behave and whatnot. But if he had come back from communion and knelt down, he would put his head in his hands. Like, I've never seen my father. He looked so, to my childish eyes, he looked very sad and overwhelmed. And it didn't matter if I poked him a million times or said, Dad, 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 Dad. He never just interrupted his prayers to notice me. And which was odd, because he had always helped my mom, myself, my sisters, helped us with our coats on, opened doors for us, opened my mother's car door. Then he would open one of our car doors, and he was so attentive all the time. But I knew from a very young age that whatever he's doing there after communion is really important, and I've got to stop and behave. And now with I have 7 children, and I kind of carried that on. I just would not let them interrupt that prayer time after communion with me. I don't know if it's mean or not, but that's what my dad taught me to do, so that's what I do too.
Well, I think the answer to that question, Amy, is it mean or not? I think it's a resounding no, because your father did that, and he was simply doing what we are all called to do, really, and that is just really intentionally ponder, meditate, not only what we have received, who we have received, as you know, Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. And the communion time at Mass is really an amazing time to be a silent witness for others, and not in a showy way. I think your father was just very, very intensely in love with the Eucharist. And, was it mean of him? Obviously not, because you now have 7 kids, and you put the same example in front of them. Just think, Amy, they're going to go on to be adults and have that same reverence and love for the Eucharist that your dad had and that you now have, and they're going to develop that as well. Hang on, Amy, just a second. I know Debbie wants to make a comment or two. I'm kind of hogging the show today, Debbie. Sorry about that, but I'm just so inspired by these calls on Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie. Amy, we'll get back to you. Stay with us. Debbie.
The Venerable Fulton John Sheen.
If we wish to keep our rights and liberties, we must also keep our God. Piety and patriotism go together. That's the first glory of being an American.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
I'm Jerry Usher.
And I'm Debbie Georgiani. We want to tell you about the Inspired by Faith Book Club.
Join us as we gather together and read a featured inspirational book each month and engage in meaningful discussions together.
Want to participate? The details are simple and can be found at jerryanddebbie.com by clicking on the Book Club tab.
Invite your friends and let's spend some quality time in fellowship with the Inspired by Faith Book Club at jerryanddebbie.com.
Living the Beatitudes with Father Bjorn.
Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. I Can't Get No Satisfaction is a popular song, but it could be a summary of our life on earth. In the book of Genesis, we hear that we're made in the image and likeness of God. That means that we can know the truth and we can choose to do good to others. We can love. It comes to fulfillment in the Sermon on the Mount, where we hear these Beatitudes. It's the standard of the Christian life. Jesus tells us that if we hear what he says and do what he tells us to do, we will be like wise people who build our house on solid rock. But we make progress towards happiness and blessedness by our actions, and it starts with our interior disposition, what we want to choose. Do you and I hunger and thirst for those things that will lead us to happiness and to God? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Hi, this is Johnnette Williams. We bring you the truth of the Catholic faith on Women of Grace tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern here on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie.
This is Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie, and we're talking about being a witness to the faith and without using words, just being who you are as a Catholic Christian and how that impacts others who witness that. It's really a wonderful discussion. And we're speaking with first-time caller Amy, who's in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And Jerry, you were sharing some comments. Amy, I'd like to maybe hear your response first. I just wanted to say one quick thing about your dad, which I think was just a beautiful story that you shared, but I'd love to hear your response first.
Oh, I hope to follow my father's footsteps in many, many ways. I just want to share another quick thing that was a real example of his, is that my mother had Alzheimer's and she passed away, and he took care of her for many years until it was too difficult. But he always had, after she passed away, he had a lawn chair in the back of his car. And I asked him where he was going, because he didn't have a sports, game to go to or something. And he would go and visit my mom at in the cemetery and bring his lawn chair and sit and read the scriptures out loud to her. And that's where he wanted to spend his time. It wasn't every day, but it was a very regular thing that he did. And I just find that so sweet.
Okay, now I'm a mess. I can't even say anything. I mean, that is just, I can, excuse me, I can picture that, and it's just so beautiful. I mean, when you think just how beautiful love is and how we demonstrate love in so many deep ways that can stay with other people. And look how that stayed with you. And I'm sure every time, Amy, am I right about this? Every time you see a lawn chair, doesn't matter where you're going, even if you go to Home Depot, don't you think of that, right?
I think of that, and I look at cemeteries very differently now.
Yeah.
It's not just a place to go and stand there and fumble around and then leave. It's a very comfortable place to go and just be with someone that you loved. And, you know, they are buried farther away than I can go to very often, but I really want to do that. I want to go get the lawn chair and just go spend time with Mom and Dad sometime soon.
Yeah. Well, you know, Amy, here's a suggestion. May I make one if you're willing, if you're open to
please.
it? Okay. Do you have any friends or family members that are near to your mom and dad? And first of all, can you give us your mom and dad's name? I'd love to add them to our book. We pray for families in our book.
Oh, sure. Betty
the first
and
name.
Bill.
Say it again.
Betty and Bill.
Betty and Bill. My dad's name was Bill. Okay. So do you have friends or family members near where Betty and Bill are laid to rest?
I do. Yeah.
Could you ask them? Oh, I could feel the Holy Spirit on this one. Boy, I'm a mess today, Amy. Forget it. This is not good. I actually love cemeteries. I know it sounds strange, but I just do. I just think it's fascinating to think about how these people have walked this earth and made a difference on this earth. And, you know, especially going to a Catholic cemetery, it's always so meaningful to me. But Amy, could you ask maybe one of your friends or family members if they could go visit on your behalf, and either bring something to the gravesite or just have a special prayer that you give to them to say. And the reason why I say that is I actually have done that for other people because my mother instilled that in us at an early age about going to pay their respects to those who have passed. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone to the gravesite of a friend's parent, and the strangest things have happened. I've gone back to this friend and I've said, this is going to sound weird, but I was at your mother's, tomb, and I just said, I was praying and I had this strange feeling. She goes, and this gal, my girlfriend said, I had the same exact feeling at that same exact time. She goes, I know my mother was grateful that you visited. And I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but I think it's so important.
I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
I've never thought of that as something that you could do for somebody, but how I would just really love that if someone would do that for me. So I think I will pick on a few relatives that don't like church, but they probably would like that.
Oh, good. And please let us know what transpires from that. I mean, just how you feel, if there was anything that came to those folks that visited your parents, whatever. I mean, we'd love to journey with the Take Two family. So you can always email us at take2@ewtn.com. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Amy, for the call. Have a blessed day. We now have your parents in our prayer book, and the entire worldwide Take Two family will be praying for them every day. So we appreciate your call. We are also taking comments, as you know, folks, on YouTube and Facebook. And on YouTube, Alex said, my old supervisor used to listen to Christian radio, and when his shift was over, he would leave it on, I believe on purpose. So I would listen to it by default also. This eventually led me back to Catholicism. How's that for it's a silent witness on the part of his old supervisor, but a very vocal witness on the part of the Christian music that he listened to.
Wait a minute. Say this again. His supervisor? One more
His
time.
supervisor used to listen to Christian radio. Wow. And then when his supervisor's shift would end, he would leave, but leave the radio on.
Oh, gotcha.
So Alex was there, and Alex would listen by default, and he says it's, I presume it's a he. Alex can sometimes be a she, but this eventually led Alex back to Catholicism. What a beautiful story.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so Jerry just typed over. He wanted to know, how often do I visit loved ones at the cemetery? And I just want to let we're very transparent here on Take Two. I wrote back to Jerry on an instant message, and I said almost every week. So because the Catholic cemetery is about 6 miles from my house, Jerry. So just to let you know, I absolutely love it. It's so beautiful and so peaceful. And my husband and I have our crypt is there, and so I visit my retirement place.
You go and visit in anticipation of residing there someday.
Yeah.
I think that'll make a great show topic. I made a note of that on the possible show topic calendar to talk to people about how often we go to cemeteries, what we do when we're there. And boy, I tell you, that Amy's dad took the cake, Debbie, taking the lawn chair there and reading scriptures to his beloved wife.
Didn't we have a wonderful Take Two family member in Florida, an elderly gentleman that did the same thing, spent lunch at the cemetery with his wife? He used to call in.
Very possible.
He used to call in. If you're listening, maybe you could call in and share that again. I remember you brought, oh my goodness, so many tears to everybody. We just could feel the love that you shared with your wife for many, many years. I think you were married like 60 years. Okay, Michael in, is it Germantown, Maryland? Listening on Alexa. Did I get your city right, Michael?
Yep, Germantown. Mm-hmm.
Okay, welcome.
Okay, hi. So as an aside, I second the cemetery thing. I love going through cemeteries. They're just so fascinating and just are awesome. So, but anyway, on the as far as witness, one thing that really one thing that gets me is when people abstain from receiving communion. You would think that would be a bad thing, but it's actually, to me, it just sends a message of how important the Eucharist is, and that is not something to be taken lightly. And it's even more, striking when, let's say, the person abstains from communion, and there's somebody that you think is perfect, or someone who you think is just such a devout Christian and or Catholic, and you're like, wow, that person's not receiving communion. And you you think about it for a second, but then you're like, obviously everyone has their reasons. It could be various things, but if I find myself not able to receive communion, either through something, minor or something a little more major, if someone asks me, sometimes I'll tell them. And what happens is that if I tell them why, they realize that this may be something that they didn't know was outside of church teaching, So it kind of strikes a conversation in a lot of ways. And if it's minor, it's like, I had a cup of coffee 15 minutes ago and I'm not properly disposed, and that might make them think a little differently about the Eucharist and how sacred it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, Michael, that's a great contribution to our conversation here. I think that, as the saying is often said, the communion lines are long, the confession lines are short. And, of course, when someone abstains from receiving communion, which I have done at times because of a need to go to confession, or I've just been so wandering, my mind distracted during Mass, I just didn't feel myself ready to receive communion or what have you. But for those people who do get that and realize, at this particular moment, I'm not disposed for whatever reason, I think it's a beautiful, beautiful gesture, and they are not going, Debbie, I think they're just not going along with everybody has a right to receive communion no matter what, and just jumping into the line and not even really thinking about whether whether we're in the right state or not. So I think what Michael's touching upon something very, very important, and I think people definitely can learn from this.
They recognize the real presence and the importance of it, and so they understand their role. And I agree with you, Michael. I think like both of you said so eloquently, there's various reasons, whether they just were distracted or not in the state of grace, or maybe they didn't fast before an hour before Mass. And so, there's various reasons, but they get it. They understand what is present. And that is so incredible. And it does speak volumes to the rest of us to wake us all up and to remember, because we can get, let's face it, we can kind of go a little bit, we just kind of, like I said earlier, kind of on autopilot. We're not really fully concentrating and meditating and thinking about it and understanding. And so this is a wake-up call for all of us. I think it's sometimes it's non-intentional. But Michael, anything else? I mean, I feel the same way. I'm so in awe of those wonderful folks that, for whatever reason, don't just get up with the crowd because they want to just, do what everybody else is doing. And I say, wow, you know what? This is so important. What do you think, Michael? Did we grasp it?
Yeah, I just had so many opportunities where if someone's like, just decides to ask you why you didn't go, obviously you can always say I just wasn't properly disposed, and then just kind of leave it at that. But sometimes what you do is you say, well, I missed church a couple weeks ago. I missed church last week, and then I didn't know that was. It would spark that kind of, like, it would help them realize that they didn't know that something wasn't would make them not properly disposed, and then they, it gives them a reason to change. So it's just, and of course, if they didn't know, that's obviously not, probably not a problem, but it helps them move forward in their faith and think about it differently. And I think it's just really, the first time that happened to me, when I realized that somebody, it was the director of our RCIA program that was sitting on communion. I'm like, oh my gosh, that person's sitting on communion, so maybe. Obviously, maybe I think I should be rethinking some things. So it was just, it just changed. That one moment just changed everything.
Yeah, absolutely. But Michael, I just wanted to say something else too that I think is really important for all of us. When we have these opportunities, and like you said, they're like small little great nuggets of a catechetical moment. A good catechesis can happen at that moment. To use ourselves as the example is the best way, because the worst thing I think we can do is when we bring folks to mass, and then we try to educate them very quickly on what they can and can't do, and so then they start looking at you like, I don't know what to do. But if you use yourself as an example, it helps others to start to examine their lives and where they are, if they're where their place, and should they go to confession, should they do this, because they're saying, oh, you know what, Michael was sharing his story, and that helps others. It sounds like you would agree with that, Michael.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's just, if people are comfortable with doing that, it's definitely something that it's such a quick catechesis moment, and especially for even people who are outside the church who are maybe lapsed and just want to, notice that, okay, they're lapsed, and, that doesn't mean they're out. They're not out of the game. If you, and I always tell people, I'm a catechist. I always tell people, you're no further away than an hour away from getting right back into the church again. If you can find confessional, you are an hour away from coming back in.
That's
and,
right.
You can't receive the Eucharist now, but if they're having hours, you can receive it tonight. You can receive it tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And, abstaining from the Eucharist, even if there's a good reason, isn't easy to do, because you may be there with family, you may be there with friends. Like you said, that RCIA instructor probably was a little bit self-conscious, thinking, oh my goodness, what's everybody in the parish knows me, what might they be thinking? But that isn't what has to dictate our decision. Our decision has to be dictated by our conscience, and if we have sin or other things we talked about, we didn't fast or we're not prepared or what have you. So, Michael, great, again, a great example of what we're talking about here today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We appreciate you calling from Germantown, Maryland.
And thank you for being a catechist, Michael. That's near and dear to my heart for over 25 years in catechetical ministry. So thank you. Thank you so very much. Okay, Jerry, Raymond, I think, called back like 3 times. So Raymond has something to say about this topic in Kansas City, Missouri, listening on Covenant Radio, and is a first-time caller. You get the virtual bell as well, Raymond. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for taking the call and being patient with me.
Thanks for persevering.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I Yeah, as said, I am the first time caller. I do listen often in random places because I travel a lot on the road and such. So in this story, I hope to not ramble on too much. But about 6 years ago, I was brought into the church. I was introduced to a lovely lady named Erica, who I'm now married to, and she welcomed me to the church. Her family did. And so this story really sets up because a year prior to we got married, so when we got engaged, I went on a pilgrimage, and it was an overnight pilgrimage. My brother-in-law came with me. A couple of folks through the church came with me. And so mentally I was kind of just looking to do it, to endure it, to just be like, to say I did it. But in the midst of it, I found a lot of deep reflection, a lot of time to, think over things. And in the wee hours of the night, about midnight, 1 o'clock, I know I was getting really tired. My feet were dragging. I was just exhausted and didn't really know how to get through it. Well, there was a gentleman named Mr. King, who was also part of our church. He came over and just kind of slowly kind of put his arm around me and kind of almost held me up as we were walking. Well, come to find out, throughout that whole process, throughout the whole pilgrimage, he actually had received or had acquired, if that's the right word, like an infection or infections on his leg based on, I think, a mixture of just kind of the heat, bugs, kind of the area we were walking through. So he was actually walking in a substantial amount of pain, but never said anything, got medical attention afterwards and everything like that. But randomly at this one point in time in the middle of the night, he came over and helped carry me basically through a good mile portion walk through our pilgrimage. So that has obviously stuck with me ever since, and I've gone and done the pilgrimage every year since then. So that's my story on.
Wow. I just love to hear stories like that, and the world is full of so many people like that. People will never know. They're hidden. They're silent, just like we're talking about today. But Raymond, you learned such a very, very valuable lesson there, and I'm so glad that you shared that. And it just brought to my mind a pilgrimage I was on the Holy Land. The first time I went there in 2011, there was a couple, and I did not know this for about 3/4 of the pilgrimage. The wife had late stage cancer, and this was like kind of a last trip for her before she, was going to prepare to die. And she was just, you never would have known it, just the way she acted and talked and prayed and interacted with people, helping other people. So yeah, Debbie, these are heroes really in my eyes, and I'm sure in yours as well.
Absolutely, they are heroes, and they'll go the extra mile for those that are journeying on the same path, towards God. It's a beautiful thing, and there's a lot of folks right now that are suffering internally. Some have physical situations, some have emotional situations, and like Jerry said, and Raymond, you said it so beautifully. You're never going to know what they are suffering with because they are busy serving others. They are focused on serving, and just as Scripture tells us to do. I think it's a wonderful thing. It obviously left a profound impact on you, Raymond. And I just want to say thank goodness that Erica welcomed you back into the faith, and now look at what's happening. You're on a global radio platform sharing your testimony and what you've witnessed, and I think it is just amazing. I think you should save this. So if you're ever, I don't think so, but if you're ever in the doghouse, Raymond, you could just replay this broadcast, and Erica will just melt. What do you think?
I think I can do that. I can hold on to that, and I can do that as we grow in our marriage. It's always something to learn, something to improve on. So,
well, you'll be in our prayers, Raymond, both of you, and thank you for your great contribution to our conversation today. We appreciate that. Wanted to get to an email, if you don't mind, Debbie, if I do this. It's a beautiful example as well of a silent, unspoken witness from Jennifer. Jennifer emailed take2@ewtn.com. She says, my mom at the age of 45 found out she was expecting another baby, number 15 to be exact. It was 1973 and abortion was now legal. The thought never crossed her mind. However, the doctor made it very clear that the baby would be born with Down syndrome and she herself could be in great physical danger. Despite the doctor's concerns, she had complete faith that God would get her through it. Lo and behold, I was born. This is Jennifer, but not without major complications with Mom. She hemorrhaged. God willing, she survived and showed us many acts of faith until her death recently. And in her final months, with dementia and all, she still loved to watch Mass on EWTN and other programs, prayers and stuff on EWTN. How's that, Debbie?
Okay, like
It's almost
Gigi,
what do
Gigi
you
was
say
saying,
after that?
yeah, get out the Kleenex on that one. Oh my goodness, what a story! And that was from our Take Two family member Jen. Is that
Jennifer? Yeah.
Jennifer? Wow, Jennifer, do you have a life story? Amazing. And your mom, what an incredible, incredible woman. Okay, let's hear what Margaret has to say in Houston, Texas on Guadalupe Radio Network. Hi, Margaret. Welcome.
Hi, Jerry and Debbie. I just wanted to share how sometimes our children can be such a beautiful witness to their siblings and to the whole family. My 17-year-old son was in a year-long relationship, and he broke up with his girlfriend just last night, and was extremely upset about it. But it was such a beautiful witness because he came in after breaking up with her, was extremely upset, very emotional, came straight to me, straight to his dad, and in front of his sister, just talked about the breakup and how upset he was about it, very open about it. And then after sharing with it, he broke down and just said, I've got to go. I have to go to adoration. And so he and his brother was there, and his brother said, I think I probably should drive him. He's upset. So, they went together to adoration, and it was such a beautiful witness to our family that, that's where we go whenever we're upset and we have troubles. We go to Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I just want to say something. I had a 17-year-old way back when, a boy, and I'll tell you what, for your son to open up to his family, he obviously felt very safe with his family. And it was a wonderful place for him to share his emotions. And then he felt that need, that desire to be close to Jesus and to be with Jesus. And I just have to say, Margaret, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it, because I'll tell you what, that is a beautiful story. I'm sorry your son, his 17-year-old heart had to go through that. I mean, it's painful. Any type of breakup, any type of relationship can be very, just really painful. But it sounds like he has all the beautiful elements that you have instilled as a family. Way to go. I can't even, I could spend a whole show on this, Margaret, from a catechetical perspective, but God bless your family and keep doing what you're doing, and maybe get the word out there to other families as well. What do you think, Jerry?
I think exactly. I love what you said. And Margaret, you hit the nail right on the head. When he had poured out his heart to you, to his family, he went to the giver of every vocation. He went to the one who calls us to what our vocation is in life. And I have no doubt that your son was there before the Lord, pouring his heart out, saying, I don't know why this didn't work out, but for whatever reason it didn't. And he probably said, Lord, I trust in you. You have a spouse for me. You have a religious vocation for me, whatever it is. I think he's in a great place, Debbie. The pain is going to be there, and the memory will always be there, but the joy will come. The joy will come when Jesus truly brings, if it's marriage, Jesus is going to bring that perfect spouse into his life.
Absolutely.
And all the pain will be forgotten, and there will be great joy.
Right, but look at his surroundings. He has a loving, caring, supportive family, and he has a close relationship with God. What more could you want for our children, right, Margaret?
That's what you want, is their happiness, and it's hard to see them suffer, but it's such a comfort to know that he knows that that's where he goes.
Beautiful.
Amen.
Beautiful.
Amen.
Way to
Thank
go.
you,
What
Margaret.
a beautiful family. Yeah.
What a great show. Betty in St. Louis, so sorry that you hear the music there. It is time for us to wrap it up. John, thank you, John, our brother, for your great email. I hope that we get a chance to read that maybe on an unscripted show. Tomorrow, Debbie, we're going to ask people who maybe aren't really even sure why they listen to EWTN Radio to call in and maybe try and figure it out. We can all talk about it on the radio.
Why do you listen to EWTN? That's what we want to know tomorrow. Until then, have a beautiful and blessed day. See you real soon.